Welcome back, everyone, to another Explainer. So today, we're diving right into a seriously thrilling recap of the July 30th Practice Cup. If you're a fan of, those dramatic sessions packed with intense highs and absolutely shocking lows, well, you are in the exact right place. We're breaking down a session that literally turned into a tale of two entirely different competitors. We're going to look at the numbers, the momentum shifts, and the totally unexpected twists that made this week on the lanes, honestly, just unforgettable. Okay, let's dive right into this. 642. Now, this isn't just any number, right? This is the massive winning series score that completely defined this latest session. And who exactly does this monster score belong to? Well, none other than the juggernaut himself, Paul D. I mean, he just came in, completely dialed in his game, and laid down the law, dropping a 642 that frankly left the rest of the field scrambling just to keep up. But the crazy thing is, this wasn't just some isolated, lucky day for him. Actually, Paul D is smack in the middle of the hottest stretch of his entire Practice Cup career. Think about this. That 642 series marks his second victory in just the last 3 weeks. Let that sink in for a second. In a field this competitive, pulling off 2 wins in 3 weeks is insanely difficult. It really further cements his recent dominance and, for sure, secures his undisputed status right at the very top of the leaderboard. And looking at all that momentum, it really brings up this massive what-if scenario. Like, what if Paul D had actually been there to bowl last week? The recap poses this exact question. And frankly, given the absolute sheer form he's in right now, there is an incredibly strong case that he could have made it 3 wins in a row. A total three-peat. When a competitor gets this hot, you really start wondering if anyone or anything other than skipping a week can actually slow them down. And this brilliantly illustrates how the whole top tier shook out. So Paul D is sitting pretty up top with his 642, right? But Bruce put together an exceptionally solid performance himself, finishing a super close second with a 632 series. I mean, Bruce was breathing right down his neck. And then rounding out this elite top 3, we've got Joe B, who threw a fantastic 619. All of this basically tells us that while Paul D took the crown, he definitely had to earn it against some incredibly fierce top-tier competition. But hey, it wasn't just a 3-man show out there. Right behind those guys, we've got a whole group of bowlers fighting tooth and nail to keep pace. Kip led the chasing pack with a 574, followed by Paul A at 553. Just right behind them, Dave B rolled a 541, and Wes completed the standings with a 528. This group right here, this represents the true engine room of the Practice Cup. These are the competitors grinding it out frame by frame, trying to claw their way up into that 600-plus territory to really challenge those leaders. Now, every great sports recap has a twist, right? We've talked about the soaring highs, the dominant victories, and that tight race at the top. But now we really need to pivot. We need to talk about the absolute biggest surprise of the entire day, the shocking stumble. 553. Now, in a vacuum, sure, maybe that's not the worst score in the world. But in the context of the upper echelons of the Practice Cup, it is shockingly low. It's the kind of number that immediately makes you do a double take when you glance at the score sheet. So, the big question is, which elite competitor actually ended up stumbling down to this totally unexpected 553 mark? Well, that 553 belonged to Herbert Medina, which, by the way, actually tied him with Paul A for the session. And guys, that is a truly shocking collapse for one of the Practice Cup's most consistently excellent premier contenders. Herbert just struggled through the entire session. I mean, by his own lofty standards, this was a decidedly dismal performance. When you're known as one of the elite, the expectations are just sky high, So dropping down to a 553 and finishing well below the expected level, that's exactly the kind of narrative shift that sends ripples through the whole league. So the crucial point is how these two drastically different storylines perfectly contrast with one another. On one hand, you have Paul D's dominant winning streak, just soaring momentum and unshakable confidence. And that's totally juxtaposed against Herbert Medina's dismal 553 slump. It is a stunning contrast. And honestly, it perfectly captures the reality of competitive sports, right? Fortunes can change in an absolute instant. One bowler is riding the highest wave, while another premier contender suddenly just hits a brick wall. But hey, let's keep things in perspective here. There is plenty of room for a bounce back next week. True to any great sports narrative, one bad day absolutely does not define a champion. Herbert Medina is a premier bowler for a reason. He's got the skills, the mechanics, the mental toughness to shake off a rough 553 series. That's the real beauty of the Practice Cup. There's always another session. It's just another opportunity to return to form and remind everybody exactly why you're considered one of the absolute best. which leaves us looking ahead. With 2 wins and 3 weeks, Paul D has completely seized the momentum in this Practice Cup. The rest of the field has a massive target squarely in their sights right now. So the ultimate question is this: who will halt Paul D's impressive run? Can Bruce close that narrow gap? Will Joe B surge to the top? Or will Herbert Medina bounce back with a serious vengeance? The field absolutely must stop this momentum before it turns into a prolonged period of total dominance. I don't know about you, but I literally cannot wait to see how they answer that challenge next week. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep your eyes on the lanes.